Hey everyone, welcome to this new little series I'm doing where I'm going to be putting the spotlight on some expert authorities of their industries, guys who are doing some big things, making headway, and just like me and you, they're just learning and they're going as well. They've achieved some great success, but we can all learn from each other. And these guys have volunteered to come forward and share some stuff along the way. So on today, we have Mr. Anthony AJ Joyner. Hey, Anthony, are you there?
Hey, Justin, how's it going, man?
It's going really good. Thanks for being with us today in this short kind of interview. So, for people that don't know you, do you want to just tell us, just in like 30 seconds to a minute, who you are, what do you do, and what's it all about?
Okay, cool. My name is, of course, Anthony A.J. Joyner. You just said that. Thank you for having me on. I provide a myriad of services. One is I help build platforms for my clients, ranging from, TV and radio stars to, music industry. Essentially, I build expert businesses for people, and they pay me for that. And I also do workshops teaching other people how to become experts in their industry. And I also run an agency where we do a done-for-you service as well, along with consulting. So it's just a lot of different hats right now, Justin.
Awesome stuff. And I know you're doing some big things, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But let's go back, and I want to first talk about what was your biggest struggle, or what was like the lowest point for you in business where you had challenges and you knew you needed to turn things around and learn something different. When was that?
So that was approximately maybe almost 4 years ago. And that point was I was writing books, I was creating products, I was doing webinars, I was producing webinars for other people, I was ghostwriting books for other people, I was teaching courses, I was doing 15 different things all by myself. And I had a mentor, Michael O'Neill, at the time, and he said, "Listen, AJ, um, you know, and oh, you know what? It was I hadn't paid for a coach, so I think the biggest turning point was I said, you know what? I'm gonna suck it up, bite the bullet, and I'm gonna pay for this coach." So, and the first thing he told me was, you need to focus on one thing and become the expert, and then other doors will open, but only when you become known as the expert for one thing. That's what I did, and it changed everything.
Nice. Okay. So what was like the top kind of one or two key things you did after that information when you took that advice on board and became the expert? What were like one or two things you did from there consistently that really paid off?
So the first thing I did was I stopped doing everything except for webinars. And I didn't only do them for myself, but I found someone who was a leader in their industry, in an industry where webinars weren't the norm. It was actually the beauty industry. She was
Hmm.
one of the top beauty makeup people in Atlanta. So I did a partnership with her, and I said, listen, I will take care of all the tech. You take care of all you give me the content, and we'll create courses, and we'll teach people, a lot of people, beauty. And at the time, there was no one else doing that. So when she did that, immediately, it was a hit because she was teaching this information. We did a Jeff Walker style product launch. And so we were teaching, and all of a sudden, her list grew from, zero people to a couple thousand people in a few weeks. And then we converted, a couple hundred of those people to a paid product. And that set the course that I'm on today. So what happened after that is, everybody started coming. So the thing that I did was I stopped. I partnered with someone who was an expert in their industry, and I built the back end of their business. And then I hired, outsourced people to help me deliver on my product. So those are the two things.
Cool. So a lot of collaboration, getting people involved, team members, marketing partners, and of course doing great work on that. Awesome.
Correct.
So what since then, what kind of metrics have you used to stay on track? Like, how do you? Since then, I've been following you. We've spoke a couple of times, and you've been on the rise. So how have you known that you're on track? Like, what have you been measuring or tracking that other experts could be looking at in their business that maybe they're not looking at?
So that is probably my weakest point, because I've been moving so fast. But one of the things that I have, set out to do is I wanted to become known as the de facto, tech person, right? Not just for webinars, but for anything in the online space. So, very quickly I started being introduced to other people, kind of out of the blue, right? So, my goal was to become that person. And I was actually, and this may be the wrong metric, Justin, but I was using the introductions that were being made to other people that I actually already wanted to work with, and kind of going up the ladder, if that makes sense, right? So it was, from the top person in one industry directly to the top person in another industry. That's kind of how I looked at it, as, okay, well, this is successful. Even though the money may not have been exactly what I wanted, I was still getting the recognition. And I understood that if I had the recognition, all I needed at that point was to build systems, right? So I looked at the access that I was getting, as successes, because I knew that if I had the right people on board, I could eventually build my team around me to support those people.
That's great, actually. Yeah, that's, number of people on your hit list, right? Number of influencers you can connect with. And I think that's a great metric, because a lot of people in your situation just don't do that. They don't have the guts or whatever it might be to go out and make those introductions, whether it's a fear of rejection or whatever it might be. And so the fact that you were doing that, but you were also very focused enough to keep track of it too,
Correct.
I think, yeah, I mean, it's definitely worked out for you. So now we're doing some good things. What does a typical day look like for you right now? What kind of things, do you do now once you're on the big road to faster success that are different to your daily habits when you were, not seeing the results you wanted?
The first thing is meditation. I take time to just get quiet in the morning, just so that I can, I know that my days tend to get hectic. So I'll wake up and I meditate, and I try to go for a run walk, in the mornings before I get started, and listen to either podcasts or meditation music, so that I can clear my mind. And the way I think about it, Justin, is imagine if you had a big clear bowl, and you had 6 bags of marbles, and each bag was a different color. So you put all those marbles in the big bowl, and you turned it upside down and held the marbles in, and you shook it all up. Then you'd have marbles of each color all over the place, right?
Yeah.
So, that's how my brain is at the end of the day. So in the morning, meditation is like taking all the marbles out and putting them back into their colored bags, every morning before I start my day, and then layering them in the bowl, one layer, one color at a time, so that I can be clear about all the things that I have to do for that day. So meditation has really kind of changed. I don't feel as stressed anymore. I can make decisions quickly, and I don't necessarily internalize the outcome, right? So that's been the biggest thing. I used to attach my emotional state to the outcomes of my projects, and I don't do that anymore. And I think meditation is a big part.
Fantastic. Cool. Okay. And what about, like, number, do you work
Yeah.
the same amount of hours? Do you work less? Do you work on different technical things? How has
Uh,
that changed?
so I don't. So as far as tactical things, no day looks the same. But I do. So 2 things: I have a consistent team meeting, Tuesdays and Thursdays. But I think more now is I read, or if audiobooks count as reading, 2 to 3 books per month, because I'm using that information. I'm using that to curate information. So I'm not reading to learn. I'm reading to curate. So in other words, when I'm reading, I'm saying, okay, this is something I can use. This is something client A can use. This is something Justin can use. And I'm mentally filing those things away in my brain, so that when I talk to the client, I'm always bringing new value to them, right? So I'm reading your post, Justin. I'm reading a lot of stuff from Dan. I'm reading stuff from Scott Olford, like a lot of you guys who I think are really crushing it. And even Dexter and things like that. And when I read, I'm like, okay, what can I learn from, and Mitch Miller as well, what can I learn from what they're saying? And you guys are probably all in a mastermind together, but
we're actually
but,
not, surprisingly, but
oh, is that right?
well,
But
we are in different ways, but
yeah. So I have all of you guys as C first on my timeline. So the five of you that I just named. So whenever you post something, either whether it's in your group or publicly, I see that first because like you don't know this, but you've been my mentor for about 3 years, along with the other guys that I've listed, and reading podcasts and listening to podcasts and doing audiobooks because I'm curating information for my clients and for myself that can make things easier for me.
Awesome. And for those listening, that's Dan Meredith and Dexter Abraham are the full names of the people there. Yes. So
oh yeah.
People you follow: Dan Meredith, Dexter Abraham, Mitch Miller, Scott Alford, and some other guy called Justin. So awesome stuff. Okay, so the next thing is, what are your goals going forward, and what is like the kind of what is like the big vision or some of the amazing things that you want to do through your company in the next couple of years?
So that has been shifting a lot, but now where I sit and the type of access that I've gained over the last 3 or 4 years, I feel like I want to bring I want to introduce a lot of the things that I'm learning back to my community. And when I say my community, I mean the African-American community starting here in Atlanta, but I want to make it a nationwide thing at least. But I want to help people understand that you can build your own platform and affect change through just learning the things that I'm teaching through marketing and things like that, right? So it's not necessarily teaching you how to, do Facebook ads or how to do webinars or how to do, e-products. It's teaching you that it's the framework, right? It is build your platform, use all these things to create products or tools. Use all these tools so that you can become a thought leader in your industry. And you can actually help other people understand how they can better themselves. And I'm very intentional about working with people who are leaders in their industry, because I think that, I can either sell, $100, webinar products, or I can work with somebody who has, a following of 150,000 people, and they can say, listen, guys, you should be reading more books, right? And because of who they are, people will do it if they say do it, right? But if I'm reading the books and I'm telling them, if I'm on the call with someone who's a radio personality who has, he's in 20 markets and he can touch, 6 or 7 million people, and I tell him, hey man, I just finished reading Stealing Fire, and I think that's an incredible book. And here's what I think, I read something, and I thought I'd share this with you. Now he goes to read Stealing Fire, and he's like, oh my God. Now he's on the radio talking about some things he's learning from Stealing Fire. That's a lot more valuable to me than for me to sell webinars.
Amazing stuff. Yeah. So everyone's got their own voice. Everyone can have their own platform now.
Correct.
Through digital tech and stuff that you can, or your team can actually set up for them, right? So
correct.
They can focus on the message whilst your team takes care of all the other stuff that we don't want to do, right?
Right. And either my team take care of it, but ideally I would like to, a lot of them may have people, and if they don't, I would like for my team to train their team so that we don't have to do it ourselves. I think I'm going to start moving that away from my business, the done for you.
Cool. Okay. And then finally, what advice would you give to coaches, consultants who are, back where you were back then, on the way up, like going through some of the same challenges, confusion? What advice would you give to those guys right now?
I would first start with hire somebody who is a little further upstream than you are, or follow the people that I just listed a minute ago, those 5 people, and make their content first. If you're, but yeah, hire someone. And then I think the biggest thing that separates me from a lot of my friends and peers is I take action, even if I fuck it up. Uh-oh. Wait, can I curse on here? I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. Yeah. So I take action, even if I fuck it up, then I'm like, okay, well, I fucked it up, but I can do something different next time. But I'm going to take action where a lot of people will will take partial action, and then they'll do a little bit, and then they'll stop, and they'll do it. Like, no, I'm gonna drive the shit into the ground and until I can't do it anymore, and then I'm gonna do the next thing, right? Because I think that every time I do that, it presents more things. So number one, hire someone who's smarter than you. Number two, take action like crazy. I know that's kind of cliche, but massive action. Number three, meditate or do some sort of spiritual work or brain work so that you can handle all the decisions that you're going to have to make. Number four, leverage your opportunities for more than just the money. Relationships, and if you can help someone who I try to only work with people who have influence, because smart people hang out together. So if you can work with someone who's smart and they don't have as much money, then do that, even if you can do that to establish a relationship. And that's what I got from you, Justin, that you told me that day. So, when I did that, it actually, helped a lot, because that person introduced me to a lot of other people. So it wasn't about the money per se, it was about the leveraging the network, right? So leverage the network. And then I think lastly, check in with people, like, if you can, right? Find mentors or people that you can check in with that say, hey, you're doing this good or bad, or, or otherwise. And I think that may even tie back to coaching. So that's kind of where I would leave it.
Awesome stuff. Wow, that's a load of gold nuggets there in about 10, 15 minutes. So thanks a lot for coming and sharing that stuff. It's been great to see where you're headed with all this stuff. I know you've got a lot of big things going on that we didn't even really talk about that much, or maybe we can and can't say certain names that are involved. I don't know, but
Sure.
you're doing some big things, and it's been great to see. So thanks again for being on here. And if you guys want to find out more about Anthony AJ Joyner, you can just click a link below here, or go and find him on Facebook, and he'll be happy to say hello. All right, guys. So that's it for this edition, and I'll see you guys in another interview coming up soon.